A lot of people know I'm a revolver guy, so it probably doesn't surprise you that I get asked quite often what I think of these new lines of polymer revolvers like the Ruger LCR, the Taurus offering. And so I thought I would make a video here to address what I think of those guns. Now, I don't own either of those two I just mentioned, but I have shot the Ruger and I've handled the Taurus quite a bit. And I'm not saying they're bad guns, but there's something that I'm not quite sold on. They're just something that I just don't see a reason for. And there's two reasons why I'm really not sold on them, and I'll go over both of those in this video. One reason is, I'm not an expert on building materials, but the guns aren't all polymer and steel. There's polymer, aluminum, and steel. So a lot of the body parts are polymer and aluminum mixed together. And I always worry when you put two substances that have different stress tolerances, and when you put them together, where they come together, you run into problems where things just don't go right, and you end up with a lot of problems with cracking, wearing unevenly, things like that. So I really like my body of a gun to stay one solid material. So I really am not a big fan of them mixing those materials, and I really don't see why they mix those materials anyway. They're not really saving a lot of weight. These polymer guns are kind of bulky to me. They just don't feel as streamlined as some of the other options on the market that are just as light. And if your goal with the polymer gun, I can't imagine would be anything other than just going light. So not only do I think that there's possible mechanical problems with them in the future, they haven't been around long enough to really see what their longevity is going to be. So I worry about it a little bit. I may be proven wrong. They may just be perfect as far as longevity is concerned, but I worry. But like I say, not only do I worry about that, but also I think there's better options on the market, and we'll talk about what some of those better options are. Okay, as I said, the only reason I could think that you would go to a polymer framed revolver would be to create a smaller, lighter revolver that you can carry easily. I don't think that was ever necessary. I don't know why it was ever a thing needed to do, because I think that's already done better in some other guns. Specifically in the Smith & Wesson line of guns that have the aluminum frames or the scandium frames. Now this is the Smith & Wesson 637. This is an aluminum frame gun. Now this gun is small, it's light, and it's inexpensive. In fact, it's cheaper than the Ruger LCRs. This gun weighs in, I think it's just under 15 ounces. They build them at 15 ounces. This one's a little heavier because it is the 2.5-inch barrel instead of the regular snub barrel, and it has the Crimson Trace grips. But the standard model weighs in at just under 15 ounces. That's less than an ounce and a half difference between the Ruger LCR and 38 Special, and it's actually lighter than the 357 Ruger LCR. Now this is only 38 Special plus P, and if you ask me, when people ask me what's the perfect gun caliber combination for a small revolver for carry, I like 38 Special plus P that is specially formulated for snub-nosed guns. I tend to get the best results out of that for these types of guns. Now, if you want a 357 Magnum gun, you still have an option of, say, the Smith & Wesson, like the 360. It's a scandium frame gun. It's actually lighter than either of the LCRs, and it's only, the MSRP on the 360, I believe, is like $650. The LCR MSRPs are between $575 and $599, whichever one you're looking at, the 38 Special or the 357 Magnum. So you're looking at a sales difference of about $40, and you're still getting a gun that is much more streamlined, much more, in my opinion, proven, and just a better looking gun all around, in my opinion. So why would anyone need a polymer gun? Now, a lot of people will say, well, the LCR has such a good double action trigger. Well, with these guns, you have the option of single action. And for me, if you need to make a quick short, you need to make a long range shot, or not long range, but an accurate shot for self-defense, single action is the best way to go, and the double action triggers are good too. So it's not really much of an advantage when it's only double action. So I just don't see why the polymer frame revolvers even exist. I don't see a need for them. It's like it was a solution to a problem that had already been solved, because you have these in aluminum and scandium, and I would rather have the one solid material for the frames. So like I say, if you asked me, I would say, if you want a polymer revolver, just because it's a polymer revolver, great. But they're a little bulkier than these guns. They're no lighter. They're not as proven of a technology or a material technology. And they just don't look as good, if you ask me, either. Now, like I say, surprisingly, I like the Taurus a little bit better than I do like the Ruger LCR. But, that's just my personal opinion. But in the end, when people ask me, I just don't think there's a need for those guns. I think that the problem of a lightweight revolver was already solved, and that was with like the Smith & Wesson 637, 642s, the scandium frame 360s, things like that. So in the end, I always just tell people, they're okay, but I just don't see a need for them, and they wouldn't be my personal choice.